Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. The first figure that appeared was actually Huo Yuhao's spiritual avatar. Once bitten, twice shy, and Huo Yuhao was a lot more careful after the painful lesson he had learned from his previous experience. He used his spiritual avatar to investigate what was happening outside, and his original body appeared only when he made sure there was no danger. It was a lot safer. The black crack closed, and the two shadows disappeared into the air at the same time with imitation. They snuck out of the tent together. Security within the Sun Moon Empire's camp was clearly a lot tighter than before. There were soldiers patrolling even where the evil soul masters resided. The patrolling soldiers carried specific types of surveillance soul tools. They didn't use them to investigate inside the tents, but they swept across the air and the ground continuously, aiming to detect soul masters, who were adept at concealing themselves, and prevent them from sneaking inside. However, such simple surveillance was useless against Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection. Huo Yuhao used his avatar to scout the path ahead, keeping his spiritual detection within a fixed range. He didn't touch any tents at all, and inched forward carefully from memory. Huo Yuhao needed a safe spot to bring his companions back safely. Wherever he opened the large gate to his spectral demiplane, it would have to reappear at the same location if reopened from within. Hence Huo Yuhao had appeared in the tent that he had stayed in before. The Holy Ghost Church definitely didn't know his spectral demiplane's characteristics. The only thing he was worried about was that Nangong Wan would reveal something, and if his identity as the Masquerade Doluo was revealed, his enemies would have the chance to set a trap. Reality proved that Nangong Wan was still quite intelligent. He was the Holy Ghost Church's second elder, and he had probably concealed his betrayal very well. That was equivalent to covering Huo Yuhao's identity, and so his stealthy operations were a lot more relaxed. It took a full hour, but Huo Yuhao finally left the Sun Moon Empire's army camp, after going past many patrols and surveillance soul tools. It wasn't difficult for him to get out with his abilities if he wanted to. Increasing the number of patrols was futile. As long as they didn't do continuous blanket sweeps, he would always be able to find cracks in the defense. He had been through so many battles, undercover operations, and reconnaissance missions that he had become increasingly familiar and adept with his skills in these areas. But even after he was out, he didn't let down his guard at all. He swiftly flew towards the Heavenly Soul Empire's camp, and went straight into the territory that the Heavenly Soul Empire controlled before he flying into the sky and proceeding towards Heavenly Spirit City. Huo Yuhao was actually the most worried about Yang Xiaozhe, as Elder Song would always smile and say nothing when he asked her about him. Huo Yuhao finally returned to the small courtyard that Shrek Academy has been assigned to. He was startled as he entered the courtyard, because he witnessed Yang Xiaozhe and Princess Wei Na coming out from the living room, chatting as they walked. Huo Yuhao descended from the sky, immediately alerting Yang Xiaozhe, who saw who it was. Relieved, he said, "You're finally back, Yuhao. You have pretty good restraint. Is everyone all right?" Yes, we're fine. Dean, Huo Yuhao spoke with his eyes wide and his jaw agape. Yang Xiaozhe smiled as he placed his index finger on his lips. Princess Wei Na quickly stepped forward, as she faced Huo Yuhao with a look of pleasant surprise on her face. "You're back, Yuhao. How is it? Where's everyone else?" Huo Yuhao naturally wouldn't reveal his secret in front of Princess Wei Na. He replied hurriedly, "Don't worry, Princess, everyone else is safe. I'm back here to check on things." Wei Na exclaimed, "Shrek is worthy of their name. There hasn't been anything we could do with the Sun Moon Empire, but a single operation from Shrek Academy has destroyed one of their soul engineer legions. If we can destroy another one or two of them, we might really be able to sound the horns for an assault." Huo Yuhao forced a laugh and said, "That's easier said than done. We relied on cheap tricks this time. The Sun Moon Empire has made sufficient preparations against it happening so easily. To tell you the truth, Princess, we had to use a stationary soul cannon shell that we obtained from the Sun Moon Empire a long time ago. If you want us to execute another operation like that, you'll have to give us a weapon of that standard before anything else. I'm afraid you don't have any. It was Princess Wei Na's turn to laugh bitterly. She couldn't even bring out a Class 8 stationary soul cannon shell, let alone a Class 9 one. The Heavenly Soul Empire had lost a lot of their territory, equivalent to losing large amounts of resources. They barely had enough to sustain their armies, while they had to rely on the Star Luo Empire and the Douling Empire for anything else. Princess Wei Na said sincerely, anyhow, I have to thank everyone for this operation. With what has happened, the Sun Moon Empire shouldn't be launching any offensives against us in the near future, which should give us sufficient time to prepare and build up our strength. We will develop as many soul tools as we can, and think of ways to hold them back at the same time. Huo Yuhao nodded, but said nothing else. Wei Na still wanted to chat with him for a little bit, but she saw that Yang Xiaozhe had been standing there waiting the whole time. It was clear that they had internal matters they wanted to discuss, so she could only take her leave. Huo Yuhao swiftly took a few steps forward, after he watched the princess leave and came before Yang Xiaozhe. He grabbed the dean's arms subconsciously and looked him up and down. Dean Yang, you. Huo Yuhao didn't know what to say. Yang Xiaozhe smiled faintly and said, you're not the only one who's confused. I think the Holy Ghost Church's supreme leader, Zhongli Wu, is probably even more perplexed. He must still be wondering how the dean of Shrek Academy's martial soul department died just like that. Ha ha ha. Huo Yuhao released his hands and whispered, how did you escape? Yang Xiaozhe smiled and replied, little junior brother, even though there's a huge age gap between us, you should still address me as senior brother. I am your true eldest senior brother. As for how I managed to escape, it's actually very simple. He leaned beside Huo Yuhao's ear and whispered something, and Huo Yuhao's eyes widened after listening to his explanation. There's actually such a magical. Yang Xiaozhe placed his index finger to his lips and laughed as he said, it's all right as long as you know, but you can't talk about it. This is your senior brother's secret to saving his life. Yes, I'll keep your secret. Huo Yuhao felt his heart skip a beat. Yang Xiaozhe's secret was just too magical, but he also had to keep the secret. Otherwise, if malicious people knew about it, they could specifically target his ability, and his skill wouldn't be effective anymore. Yang Xiaozhe said, come, let's go into the room. Get everyone out, and we can return. All right. Huo Yuhao began to chant as they returned to the living room, and opened his spectral demiplane. Yang Xiaozhe looked on as Elder Song and the others came out of the demiplane one after another. He couldn't help but say with a sigh, Yuhao, even though I really don't like this ability of yours, I have to say that it can be considered a godly skill when used in certain situations. You have contributed even a secret like this to the academy, that's. Huo Yuhao chuckled and said, the academy is my home. The academy has given me everything that I have today, and I belong to the academy. There's nothing to say about contributions. Elder Song smiled and said, you're right. On the other hand, the academy will belong to you guys in the future. All right, it's time for us to bid farewell to the Heavenly Soul Empire. Even though their mission had many twists and turns, they had finally completed their task. They had helped the Heavenly Soul Empire complete their reconnaissance and dealt a huge blow to the Sun Moon Empire's army. Most importantly, they had managed to rescue Tang Ya. Their mission had killed many birds with one stone. They had to return to the academy as quickly as possible, because Elder Song, Dean Yang, and everyone from the Tang sect had many things they had to deal with after all. Huo Yuhao replied, let's bid our farewells tomorrow morning. I'll take this opportunity to write down everything that I have learned in detail, and hand that to the Heavenly Soul Empire. That should help them. Elder Song nodded and said, that's fine. They stayed for another night, and everyone regained their peak condition besides Tang Ya. The Ice Bear King, Little Bai, chose to remain in Huo Yuhao's spectral demiplane. Everyone bid their farewells to the Heavenly Soul Empire the next day. The Heavenly Soul Empire longed for them to stay, but everyone from Shrek Academy still refused politely as they left Heavenly Spirit and returned to Shrek Academy. The Tang Sect, Shrek City. Elder Song and Yang Xiaozhe immediately returned to Shrek Academy once they returned to Shrek City. They also had to report this mission to the Academy and record it. Everyone from the Tang Sect naturally returned there. Tang Ya had awoken from her deep slumber. After her treatment that day, she had fallen into a deep slumber for a day and a night before coming to. The sinister aura on her body was a lot weaker after she woke up, but her mind was still not clear. She still appeared very muddlehead, and there wasn't any color in her eyes. Fortunately, her aura of an evil soul master was no longer as dense, though her soul power seemed to dissipate a little along with those evil toxins. She was no longer aggressive. Bei Bei accompanied her every day to speak to her, but Tang Ya never said anything from the beginning to the end. She was just sitting there like a stone, and she would do that for the entire day. Bei Bei had to help her eat, sleep, bathe, and even when she had to go to the toilet, like she had lost her basic ability to live. Bei Bei wasn't unhappy about any of that. He took care of Tang Ya patiently, and rejected Xiao Xiao and Jiang Nanan's offers to share his burden. He told them that he owed Tang Ya far too much over these years, and it took them so much effort to finally take her back. He was perfectly willing to protect her like this for eternity, to love her and care for her. Look, Xiao Ya, the Tang Sect is right in front of us. Everyone from the Tang Sect was escorting Bei Bei and Tang Ya, and they were finally back at the Tang Sect. The Tang Sect's main gate was within sight. Tang Ya still seemed very dazed, and she could barely walk forward as Bei Bei supported her. Her entire being seemed like a walking undead. Do you still remember, Xiao Ya? You told me back then that your greatest wish was for the Tang Sect to recover and regain their former glory. That was also your late parents' wish. The truth is, I have been working hard ever since to find a way to rebuild the Tang Sect. I wanted to give you a pleasant surprise, but it's my fault that you decided to leave, because I didn't try harder to understand your thoughts. That's the reason why so many things happened afterwards. Look, I have rebuilt the Tang Sect for you, and it grows stronger by the day. You have to recover as quickly as possible. Nan Nan is right, you are the rightful leader of the Tang Sect. The Tang Sect needs you to support it. How can you do that by being like this? Bei Bei whispered into Tang Ya's ear. Everyone walked towards the Tang Sect as he spoke. Tang Ya's eyes were still dazed, but when she saw the Tang Sect's name on the plaque that hung over its main gate, her eyes trembled faintly as her lips quivered. The Tang Sect. Even though her voice was very, very soft, everyone from the Tang Sect were at least soul emperors. Everyone could hear her. Bei Bei's body shook as he stared at Tang Ya with a look of pleasant surprise on his face. Tang Ya was still looking at the large words on the plaque. There seemed to be something more in her eyes, and her lips were still quivering. But she couldn't say another word. Everyone naturally stopped. They paused, and nobody disturbed her as they just let her stare at those words. There was finally something that could affect her memory, which was just fantastic. Tang Ya's eyes seemed to recover their confusion after a few moments. She leaned into Bei Bei's embrace, and the color in her eyes disappeared. Bei Bei said softly, "Yes, this is the Tang Sect, and it's our home. You will stay here from today onwards, and I will accompany you always. Is that okay?" Of course, Tang Ya wouldn't respond, but only then did everyone start escorting them once more, and walk into the Tang Sect. Everyone started getting back to work once they came back. They hadn't left for a long time, and they came back much earlier than the month they had predicted. However, there was still quite a bit of work piled up. Shu Sansha, Jiang Nan, Xiao Xiao and the others went to handle those affairs, while Huo Yuhao accompanied Bei Bei to settle Tang Ya in. Bei Bei stared at Xiao Ya, who was lying down on the bed, as he whispered to Huo Yuhao, "Did you hear that, Yuhao?" Xiao Ya said, "The Tang Sect." Bei Bei's eyes grew excited as he spoke, like a little child at the moment. Huo Yuhao hurriedly nodded and said, "I did, of course I heard her. This is probably teacher Xiao Ya's deepest memory. Don't worry, eldest senior brother, her memory will definitely recover as long as we continuously dispel those evil poisons. You have to continue speaking to her, as that will help catalyze her recovery. I will delegate some tasks right away, and once that is done, there are some other plans that I want to speak to you about. Eh? What plans? If it isn't complicated, then just tell me now. I've spoken to Sancha, and he'll help me with some of my work for some time to come. I will spend more time accompanying Xiao Ya. Huo Yuhao nodded and replied, "It's not complicated. I brought back some natural treasures when I brought Big Mao and Second Mao back." With that, he recounted how Big Mao and Second Mao ate all those herbs and medicines inside the Icefire Yin-Yang well back in the setting sun forest. Bei Bei didn't know whether to laugh or to cry after listening to his story. Those two fellows. But it seems like a bad thing has changed into a good one. I didn't pay much attention when you told me last time. Seems like you've brought back quite a harvest. Huo Yuhao said, "It is quite copious. I have taken away almost all the fruits and whatnot which they gestated that can be considered immortal herbs. Even if they are considered 100,000-year soul beasts, they need thousands of years to gestate good stuff like this." Bei Bei asked, "What do you mean?" Huo Yuhao lowered his voice and said, "You know, eldest senior brother, that the situation in the continent is very unclear. Even though the Sun Moon Empire has temporarily halted their invasion, war can break out again at any time, judging by the way they do things. Once the Heavenly Soul Empire can't stop the Sun Moon Empire's great army, the Academy will quickly receive the brunt of their attack. Furthermore, both the Sun Moon Empire and the Holy Ghost Church have perceived our Academy as a thorn in their side, and they would be more than happy to see us gone. Therefore, we have to make our preparations early if we want to be sufficiently effective in this war. When we were resting in my spectral demiplane several days ago, I closely studied the poison and medicine manual that Tang San, our ancestor, left behind. Tang San has detailed comprehensively what those natural treasures do, and how some herbs complement each other, and how some herbs reject each other. I am certain that everyone's cultivation will increase exponentially after consuming these herbs. The Tang sect's overall strength will be greatly boosted afterwards. I think I should process these herbs soon. What do you think?" Bei Bei answered without hesitation, "That's fantastic. Of course you may. What do you require the Tang sect to help you with?" Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, "There's no need for that. Eldest senior brother, I just need you to convince Teacher Xian to give me some time. I will learn about forging soul tools from him once I finish processing the herbs." Bei Bei laughed. "So you're worried about that? Don't worry, even though Teacher Xian is extremely stubborn, he seems to have conceded after you crafted that Class 8 soul tool. Furthermore, he isn't an unreasonable person, you have a suitable reason, and you're doing this for everyone. He won't disagree. But are you confident in being able to do all that?" Huo Yuhao nodded. "There shouldn't be a problem. Tang San's medicine manual points out that these natural treasures will already have very strong effects when consumed individually. But because these herbs have their own special characteristics, they will also have side effects when consumed unless they're especially suitable for a particular martial soul or body type. Forging pills from these herbs means I will attempt to fuse their unique characteristics together, which requires great control. I should have no problem with that with my spiritual detection. Furthermore, the things that I have brought back are of even higher quality than the herbs that Tang San has detailed. If I can refine them correctly, they will be greatly beneficial to the Tang sect." Bei Bei nodded and said, "All right, go ahead. I fully support you on this. I'll look for Teacher Xian in a little bit." "That's great," Huo Yuhao replied. Bei Bei instructed him, "But don't mention this to others, because you can't give everyone too much hope. The more hope they have, the more disappointed they'll be." Huo Yuhao understood the meaning in Bei Bei's eyes. He knew that his eldest senior brother was trying to protect him. Everything would be fine if he was successful, but if he wasn't, Bei Bei was afraid that everyone would have differing opinions. Bei Bei took care of Tang Ya, and Huo Yuhao immediately left the Tang sect. He had to delegate some tasks before purchasing some secondary materials. Forging and processing herbs wasn't that simple, and even though he had just told Bei Bei that he was confident, he didn't dare to be careless, or overconfident at all. These were natural treasures, and weren't something that money could buy. He would regret it immensely if something went wrong. The tasks that he had to delegate were simple, and Huo Yuhao had already discussed them with Elder Song on the way back. Elder Song oversaw all the auctions within Shrek City. She had told Huo Yuhao to look for the auctioneers, and tell them that he was to announce this task through an auction. Elder Song had already sent people to give the auctioneers a heads up after entering the city. The bounty, after the Tang Sect thoroughly discussed it, was finally set at a promise from the Tang Sect for a Class 8 stationary soul cannon shell, or a soul tool of the same class. That was a bounty sufficient to drive people crazy. Both Class 8 soul tools and a Class 8 stationary soul cannon shell were priceless treasures, and only the Sun Moon Empire had them. Huo Yuhao had already thought things through. If the person who claimed the bounty chose a soul tool, then he had Hongchen's blessing, which Jing Hongchen had given him, and he could take that one out. As for a Class 8 stationary soul cannon shell, Xian Ziwen was already attempting to forge one. Huo Yuhao believed that with his abilities, crafting one wouldn't be very difficult. As for other things and Class 8 stationary soul cannon shells, there was a limit to them, and the Tang Sect could sustain the costs. Huo Yuhao placed the bounty successfully after Elder Song had given the auctioneers a heads up, and went ahead and purchased some necessities for forging pills from herbs before he walked back to the Tang Sect. Huo Yuhao calculated a few things. He would run a few experiments first with normal herbs, and would only use those natural treasures once he was practiced and more familiar with the process. He really hoped that something would come of this. The Tang Sect would benefit greatly if this happened, and he still intended to give the academy some as well. But all that was for later. He would have to wait until he successfully created those pills. Huo Yuhao was just about to reach the main gate when he saw someone walking towards him. They seemed to be walking towards the Tang Sect, and Huo Yuhao hurriedly accelerated when he saw this person, as he exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "Eldest senior sister." Wasn't the person who was walking towards him the eldest senior sister of Shrek Academy's inner courtyard, Zhong Lishuan? She was also one of the Sea Gods Pavilion's members. The Sea Gods Pavilion was starting to undergo a generational change. Huo Yuhao, Bei Bei, and Zhong Lishuan were elites of the younger generation, and were all part of the Sea Gods Pavilion. Zhong Lishuan was also startled when she saw Huo Yuhao. She laughed and said, "That's convenient. I was going to look for you. I didn't think I'd meet you here." "Ah? You're looking for me?" Huo Yuhao asked in surprise. He was looking Zhong Lishuan up and down at the same time. Zhong Lishuan was wearing a long blue dress today, which made her look even more slender. There was a faint smile on her pretty face that exuded good cheer, and she seemed to be drastically different from before. There had always been a tinge of melancholy between her eyes back then, but she couldn't appear any more normal today. Huo Yuhao was very happy for her. Even though the yin-yang love querying valley made him lose Donga, their experience there wasn't entirely bad. At least, his eldest senior sister had lost her memory of her feelings towards Bei Bei, which was a great thing for her. She had managed to discard her heaviest burden. Huo Yuhao had heard that his eldest senior sister had accepted one of the inner courtyard's teachers, and they were dating now. Furthermore, his eldest senior sister had already become one of the inner courtyard's teachers as well, and her cultivation was improving greatly. Her status within the academy was getting higher and higher. "Come in and have a seat, eldest senior sister." Huo Yuhao was a disciple of the Tang Sect, and he naturally had to play the host. He hurriedly gestured courteously for Zhong Lishuan to enter. Zhong Lishuan chuckled and said, "I'm here to find you. Since I've run into you, I'm not going inside. I'll just tell you." "Ah? Me?" Huo Yuhao stared at Zhong Lishuan in shock. Zhong Lishuan replied, "Yes. It's so hard to catch you. Who else can I be looking for? You're always running around outside every day, so where would I go to find you? Let me ask you, have you graduated from the academy?" Huo Yuhao scratched his head. He had forgotten about that. Ever since he came back from the big competition, he hadn't studied in the academy's curriculum. Zhong Lishuan was a little speechless. "You're part of the Sea Gods Pavilion after all, So how embarrassing will it be when people find out that you haven't even officially graduated from the academy? You should have no problem graduating from the inner courtyard with your current abilities, but we still need you to do some paperwork. Huo Yuhao said, but the others from the Tang Sect. Zhong Lishuan grunted and said, everyone else has already completed their paperwork, you're the only one left. You can consider yourself graduated once you pass the inner courtyard's graduation assessment, and only then can you say you're a graduate from Shrek Academy. Huo Yuhao said, all right then, let me take the test. Eldest senior sister, when do you think it's appropriate for me to go? Zhong Lishuan was right. Even though he was really busy, it was better for him to officially graduate from the academy. Zhong Lishuan said, you've just returned, so you can rest for a few days. Oh, yes, there's something else. Everyone else is no longer considered a student from the inner courtyard, because they have graduated. But you haven't, and you're also single, while the next season's Sea God's fated blind date is about to begin. You have to participate, do you understand? Ah? Huo Yuhao stared at Zhong Lishuan in astonishment. I have to participate in the fated blind date, eldest senior sister. Zhong Lishuan nodded seriously and said, that's the academy's rules. All single boys and girls from the inner courtyard have to participate. You're part of the academy, and you still haven't officially graduated. How can you not participate? Eldest senior sister, let's forget about that. You know that I already have Dong, and even though she's missing, I can't go back to participate in the fated blind date anymore. Huo Yuhao's eyes became a little dim as he spoke. Zhong Lishuan heaved a faint sigh and said, Yuhao, I understand your feelings, and I also feel very sorry for you. Dong is a good girl. However, the academy's rules cannot be broken, right? You have to give me face. Let's do it like this, you'll just be there to participate, and I'll ask all the girls not to choose you. You won't be affected that way. Huo Yuhao pulled a long face. I have a lot of things to do right now, eldest senior sister. You know that this is crunch time for the Tang Sect. Zhong Lishuan's face sank. Do you still want your graduation certificate, Huo Yuhao? Let me tell you, if you can't pass this, nobody will give you a graduation certificate, even if you're part of the Sea God's Pavilion. Zhong Lishuan was firming up, and her dignity, as his eldest senior sister immediately came up. Huo Yuhao didn't dare to argue against her. Zhong Lishuan thought for a moment, then said, let's do it like this. You're walking over the event anyway, and you still have to deal with graduation paperwork. Why don't you come to the inner courtyard, during the night of the Sea God's fated blind date, and you'll participate in the event at night, and I'll arrange for your graduation assessment on the following morning, then I'll help you deal with your paperwork. You can save the most time that way. Huo Yuhao really couldn't turn her down anymore. He could only accept his fate. All right, eldest senior sister, I'll listen to you. Zhong Lishuan's frown turned into a smile as she said, that's better. It's a deal, then. The Sea God's fated blind date will be held 5 days from now, and if you dare to not come, HMPH. The Tang Sect will not know peace. Zhong Lishuan turned and strode away after leaving this threat. Huo Yuhao's face was full of exasperation as he watched her leave. He really couldn't afford to offend his eldest senior sister. But she was right. He couldn't break the academy's rules. Furthermore, getting his graduation certificate was also very important. He would just be there to walk through the event. 5 days from now. I can't forget about that. Huo Yuhao walked into the Tang Sect as he thought, and immediately began to contemplate and research forging those pills. Huo Yuhao needed specific tools to do this. He needed a furnace, and he needed sufficient warmth in the fire. A pill furnace was simple. All he had to do was make a soul tool. Huo Yuhao began to draw a blueprint for that soul tool as he contemplated. No matter what, he was still a Class 7 soul engineer who could forge a Class 8 soul tool. Even though he hadn't seriously studied forging soul tools for a few years, a small problem like this couldn't stump him. The pill furnace had to satisfy several conditions. First, it had to be strong enough to resist high temperatures. Second, it had to produce high temperatures. Third, it had to be able to control its temperature. Fourth, the furnace itself couldn't have any effect on these herbs at all. He should be able to start forging pills after satisfying these conditions. It wasn't hard to forge a soul tool while satisfying these conditions. Just as Huo Yuhao was just about to complete his blueprint, a knock came from outside. Who is it? Huo Yuhao asked subconsciously, without even looking up. It's me. A very dissatisfied voice could be heard from outside. Ah? The person who owned this voice was one of the people that Huo Yuhao feared the most. He hurriedly stood up and opened the door. Why are you here, Teacher Xian? Huo Yuhao greeted Xian Ziwen with a sheepish smile on his face. Xian Ziwen grunted coldly and said, You dirty fellow. You're back rather quickly, but you used Bei Bei as your shield as soon as you came back. Do you think I'll let you go? How many days do you need to forge whatever pills? Give me an accurate estimate. Huo Yuhao forced a smile and said, How can I give you a proper estimate, Teacher Xian? This is also my first time, and I still have to do some experiments. You know that we have to conduct experiments every time we craft a new soul tool. It's similar for forging pills. I was just drawing up some blueprints for a pill furnace. Don't worry, once I'm done with my pills, I will immediately learn about soul tools from you. What do you think? A blueprint for a pill furnace? Let me take a look. It was his first reaction when he heard soul tool. Huo Yuhao hurriedly handed over the blueprint that he had just drawn. Xian Ziwen didn't have to ask what Huo Yuhao needed from his pill furnace. He understood Huo Yuhao's intentions with a few glances. However, his first reaction, after looking through the blueprint, was to slap his hand upside Huo Yuhao's head. Ayo, why did you hit me, Teacher Xian? Huo Yuhao said aggrievedly. Xian Ziwen snapped, Idiot, to think you're a Class 7 soul engineer. Don't tell others that you're my disciple, because I can't take that embarrassment. Look at what you're drawing, what is that? It would be surprising if you could actually forge pills successfully with this thing of yours. Just waiting to waste some resources. Ah? Huo Yuhao admired Xian Ziwen the most in terms of forging soul tools. Xian Ziwen wouldn't speak without thinking about this, and he was very strict about his research with soul tools. Huo Yuhao hurriedly sought advice humbly. Teacher Xian, can you tell me what's wrong with my blueprint? Help me. Xian Ziwen grunted coldly and said, Now you want to learn. You have never been willing to properly learn about forging soul tools from me over the years, and you feel embarrassed now. You messed up something as simple as this. HMPH. Don't think you can do this well with that spiritual power of yours. No matter how formidable your spiritual power is, if you don't have sufficient experience, if you don't have the newest theories and principles, all that is wasted. Let me just touch on two things to tell you why your furnace is useless. First, let me ask you, how can your furnace ensure that the herb's medicinal effects won't be lost? Do you not know that herbs that are considered natural treasures will release their medicinal effects once they are used? Can metal seal the furnace so that these medicinal effects won't be lost? Once these medicinal effects are lost, everything that's good will flow away. Are you preparing a furnace full of dregs for everyone? This video will end here.